All right. So the topic is basically, if you see my screen, human-centric business agility. It has two folds. Basically, it's a philosophy and it's also a framework. We'll try to cover both as much as possible. And at any point in time, if you have a question for clarification on what I'm talking about, please feel free to stop me. We'll clarify that and then we'll go ahead.
Okay. So one basic question from this all your human-centric business agility. So you have come up. You mentioned that root elements, cultural elements, and outcomes, right? In most of the organizations, from your experience, where it is lacking and why it is failing. I mean, which
I,
area, like cultural elements area or an outcome area, or in, people are not following the root elements of the agile. Which one you feel like?
that's a $1 billion question. So yeah, that's thanks for that. That gives me the opportunity to clarify further my thoughts on this. In my experience, as I mentioned, I have done my research. In my experience, what I have seen is that problems occur when agile as an element is not rooted in the culture. Where does it come into the culture? So basically, there is a way culture works. The foundation of the culture within an organization is the collective belief system. What's the collective belief system? The collective belief system is the aggregation of the belief system that resides in each individual's mind who is part of the organization. That takes us to the concept of a mindset. So, if there is a lack of mindset around agility, which sometimes popularly is known as the agile mindset, that means you don't have the belief system in place to support the organizational culture. So there is always a continuous bi-directional feedback mechanism between a belief system and the resultant culture. The culture continues to influence the belief system and the belief system continues to influence the culture. So if that first layer of the belief system or mindset is not there, then it doesn't get reflected in the culture. If it is not there in the culture, you will not see that in the behavior. If you don't see that in the behavior, you don't see that in the results, because behaviors are basically how you act, what you work on, how you do things, and those things basically lead to a certain type of certain set of results. So if the basis is lacking, then the next layers also fall apart or they go missing. So that's one of the things where it is not embedded in the culture, it's not there in the mindset, it's not there in the belief system. And the second thing is that it's very ritualistic. That means you are following it as a standard operating procedure, because you just have to go through these steps and you'll expect that some magic would happen. There might be a bit of magic that would happen, because whether or not you potentially completely understand the full scope of the mechanism that you're applying, because you are applying it, you'll get some benefits. That's fine. But to get the whole benefit of this entire mechanism, you have to understand it completely. There has to be the whole understanding, the wholeness in the understanding, the wholeness in applying it. You have to apply it in a holistic way. And basically, as far as the nuts and bolts, the tiny bits are concerned, those have to be there. And when we talk about flexibility, we say, okay, it has to be flexible, right? So let's say we say, okay, we talk about, for example, daily Scrum. Oh, it needs to be flexible. Let's do it just twice every week. Should be flexible, right? It's agile, right? Okay, in this sprint we'll do the sprint review, but the next one, oh, we have not done much. Why to bother? Oh, cancel that. So if you take that path, that's where everything starts to fall apart. Basically, you knowingly or unknowingly, you are actually breaking the principles, not following the values. Basically, you are ignoring the why behind all these things. The most important thing is to understand why. Why Scrum? Why these values in the Scrum? Why these principles? Why these artifacts? Why these roles? Why it is combined in such a way that leads to this framework?
कुठलं ते
If we don't understand the why, sorry, so if you don't understand, if I don't understand why it is that, then it's going to be very superficial. And in many cases, that is happening, unfortunately. So that's my observation. So number three is that sometimes it's about the lack of support, that you'll get this understanding with exposure, with education, with training, with coaching. And if that is missing, then it is very difficult to gather that understanding, to gain that mindset. And basically, when you actually gain that mindset, you change your behavior, your result changes, that gives you some feedback to reinforce your behavior, to reinforce your belief system. So basically, it becomes a cycle. But if it doesn't start, if you don't get into that group, don't get into that formation, it's basically very transient, very cosmetic. So that's what is my observation. I can go on and on, but yeah, um, basically, I think I have written quite a book worth of, not in quality, but at least in quantity, stuff on this framework. It's there available on my blog. I have mentioned many things which I have found in my research. If you find it interesting, I can share that with you. You could take a look at it. And of course, we can discuss again and again all these things, explore more elements. So,
Thank you so
any,
much.
no worries, no worries. Absolutely. Thanks for that question. Any other thoughts, any other question, anything that pops up, anything looks familiar? Oh, I have thought about it. Yeah, this is a
Yeah.
problem I have seen.
So organization is a really complex set of so many people coming together. It's also many times the expression of the human problems as well as the culture. So if you actually see in India, the organization behaves might be a little different because it's also expression of the culture that happens in India. If you actually go to Europe or US, it's different. Have you seen any differences between the fake agility that you say, and if someone like as Hema asked, how do I also implement as a person that I hold a minimum responsibility at the management level or middle management level or something like that. So how do I influence implementation of such human-centric business agility? It is that a set of people who are really powerful people in an organization that they can implement it, or it's just that everybody can actually like typically Scrum can be implemented by a Scrum master and influenced by a Scrum master. Can human-centric business agility be also in a way influenced by those people?
It's a beautiful question, Vijay. Really, thank you for that. Yes. So we'll take first this part. Who could influence the implementation of this? As far as my understanding goes, the implementation of this could be influenced in all the levels in the organization, as long as there are multiple levels in the organization. We typically have multiple levels. So my understanding is that starting from the lowest level up till the highest level in the organization, the implementation could be influenced. Because if you look at it in a simplistic sense, what it takes is a really good understanding of the agile values and principles. It's a very small set of values. It's a very small set of principles. Not very complex, not a lot to go through, but it's basically about understanding that why these values, what those values mean, why these principles, what these principles lead to. Understanding Scrum. I mean, anybody could actually do enough to understand Scrum. It could be training, education, coaching. Somebody could understand Scrum. Servant leadership. Again, there are ways to gain that understanding. It's a very, very wide subject. It's very deep. It takes time to understand, reflect in the practices, but it happens. It's not impossible. It happens. And ethics, it's very, very prominent a thing. We typically know in most of the cases what's right and what's not right, what is wrong. We know, in most of the cases we know. So ethics is built into us. We have this understanding. So we have to exercise that. So when an individual, a team, a manager, a departmental head, a CEO, whoever we are talking about, they are cognizant of these facts. They gather this understanding, and they say, okay, let's not stop ourselves in just understanding, because one of the things is that when we talk about a mindset, sometimes we fail to recognize this fact that mindset is just that, it's a mindset. It is not the behaviors, it is not the actions, and it is not the outcome of those actions and behaviors. A mindset is a mindset. If we stop at that, if we stop at a mindset, nothing is going to be achieved pretty much. We have to go beyond the mindset. We have to apply that mindset. We have to bring in those behaviors. We have to apply those principles, and then we could expect to see the outcomes. But if we stop at the mindset, we are stopping at the mindset. We have achieved a mindset, but what's the outcome? The outcome will require this bridge between the mindset and the outcomes, which is your behavior and actions. How do you apply these things? You have got the understanding, you have got the belief system. How are you applying it? So the moment you start applying it, you are applying the framework. You don't have to say that, okay, I'm applying a framework. There is no need to talk about it. In my personal experience, I don't talk about, oh, this is the framework I'm applying. Hooray! No, there's no need. We just do the basic, good, valuable things, and that's it. It gives you the outcomes. We'll go back to the second one, the diversity in cultures and how fake agile gets reflected. There are some cultures which are very different when it comes to relationships, distance, power distance, all those elements of culture. Where respect is a thing. For example, there are cultures in which elders are respected by default. It's a de facto expectation. If you see an elderly person, you become slightly humble. You bend down, you bow down, you bring your voice to a lower volume, lower level. You typically depict a lot of things, and that's cultural because that's how you have grown in that culture. Now, when you are in a culture like that, that has invented these elements, that's not something fake, that is genuine, that is happening over there. From another culture's point of view, that might look like, oh, fake agility. There's no collaboration. There is this bossism. Somebody is overpowering. But that's not the case. That's just a cultural element. So basically, we have to see through that, and which is not always easy. So in some other cultures, because you are an elder, you will be respected. That's not the case. Because you are a teacher, you will be respected. That means whatever you say, the students will listen to that and will not ask questions. That doesn't work that way in those cultures. So when you look at that, say, oh, wow, collaboration, everybody is treated equal, but that's the culture aspect of it. So gaining this understanding is a complex business. Culture is a complex thing. As Vijay very well mentioned, that organizations are very complex uh, mechanisms, ecosystems. So there is no expectation of understanding this simply, but once we take a keen, closer look at it, it becomes very clear. So fundamentally, to apply the framework, we have to apply the basics, understand the basics, and do it right. To understand fake agile, we have to understand in the light of which culture we are looking at it and trying to understand, okay, how much of fake agility is there, how to clean it up. So basically, culture becomes one of the parameters. Any other thoughts, any other questions?
Yeah, can you also go back 2 slides back? I like this fake agile uh, logo kind of stuff.
Oh, this one,
And no, 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 no. Go back a little. That is very self-depictive.
right?
In an organization, um, is saying that a significantly better society is your uh, goal as for this human-centric business agility kind of, So can you a little bit elaborate that? How do we create a better society inside an organization? I mean, by virtue of an organization, create a significantly better society.
I love that question. I really
Yeah.
love that question. So unless this question is asked, I never get this opportunity to explain this. Thank you so much for asking this. As I mentioned earlier, there are loads and loads of organizations in this world. A lot of people are involved in a job that is related to business organizations, directly or indirectly, within the organization or outside the organization. They're influenced by the organizations. Now, when somebody asks, oh, we are talking about an agile framework in a business organization context, how does it actually change the society? Well, it does. I talked about fake agile organizations. I described some of the attributes. For example, a very stressful work environment, diminished potential of human life, all those things. Now, once a human being, let us go to the tiniest context, one human being working within one organization with a very stressful work environment, basically what that individual experiences is a significantly lesser amount of well-being. It is again and again proven, established in scientific research that stress can actually kill you. It can actually, it does kill you. Sometimes slowly, sometimes in a slightly faster pace. I'm just giving one tiny example. That there could be loads and loads of examples, and there's more I have written in my blogs. But yes, the moment that happens, that means you have an exposure to something which is a real risk. Your well-being is basically impacted negatively. The second thing is that when your well-being is impacted, your happiness is impacted, your creativity and ideation also gets impacted. The spirit of innovation gets reduced, gets diminished. The amount of leadership that you would actually demonstrate otherwise, you would not do that because you are diminished as far as your spirit is concerned. Now think about it, it's evening, you're done with your work, you go back to your family, but given that you are stressed out, your well-being has been impacted. You cannot be very sweet, you cannot be very impactful, you cannot be very dutiful for all the responsibility and role and the relationship that you have within the family. You cannot be a great dad when you actually meet your children. You cannot be a great husband. You cannot be a great son to your parents because you are drained. Your well-being has been impacted. Your spirit has been diminished. I'm just giving one tiny example. There are so many other examples in which I can very well connect the dots and show that with fake agility, what it leads to basically gets reflected in the larger society in a profound way. In a profound way. And you don't have to go by my words. You can look it up. There's so many studies, there's so many research that can actually show you the dots connected. It is established. We need to have a framework, a specific agile framework that we can say apply this and address these real problems. Very, very important problems because the problems are very, very severe. The impact of the problem is very, very valuable in terms of human life, social life, the society, and this world. Any other thoughts? Any other questions? Very good discussion indeed. I really loved the questions.
Yeah.
Hi, Debbie.
Sure.
I you, you recognized me. How are you?
Oh,
So, Debbie,
I'm not that old.
what happens? What happens is that in the product-based companies, the teams are there for prolonged period, and then certain type of there is a scope of establishing certain type of culture. But what happens in the what do you say like the type of company. I work for Tech Mahindra here. So here the projects keep on changing. The team keeps on changing, and the clients they see the resources. I mean, the team members just as a resources to get the work done. Could you please help me to understand how to bring in the human element into the process? The clients want the agile process, they want all the ceremonies and the work done. But I'm really interested in this human centric aspect which you are talking about. If you can just give me some suggestion, it will be really helpful.
Absolutely. Thanks for that question. Very good question indeed.
Yeah.
I'll touch upon a set of very important points in the context of this question. No organization, no manager, no boss, no lead basically means damage. Their intention is not bad. No. In most of the cases, their intention is not at all bad. They are as well intentioned as most of us. They would not like to impact negatively the well being of people. No, that's not their intention. That's not their life goal. No, it is more or less situational. How an organization operates based on its organization design, its business model, and so on and so forth. When it comes to human centricity in Agile, the people, the group of people that came together debated. It was a fierce debate. It was a very prolonged discussion. It was a very painful discussion. And then they came up with these agile values and principles. When they came together, their intention was not only to find out through deliberation a set of values and principles that could show light to the world of work that there is a better way to do this. But they also intended to address why to suffer when you don't have to suffer doing work. They also intended that. And to an extent, I believe that has been forgotten. Agile frameworks have more been about how to produce better results within lesser time with greater quality, but it has slightly moved away. The mainstream of the theme has slightly moved away from this human centricity. But that was the original intention. Let us admit and let us appreciate their work. Now, in the context of this example, we cannot place the responsibility on the organization, because when we talk about organization, we are talking about us. Organization is nothing but it is us. That's the organization. It's not the CEO. It's not the CFO. It's all of us, including them. So if it is the organization's responsibility to establish human centricity in agility, in agile, in the process of doing business, in the way of working, it is the responsibility of all of us. As I mentioned, this can be influenced at the lowest level in the tiniest context of an individual. The individual has to understand why we need to do these things. In my research, I have come across people who work hands-on, and they say, okay, oh, agile, the same problems, man. What has changed? So you could very clearly listen to that. They have not been helped to understand the values and the impact of agility. They have never experienced it. They have never seen it. And they're not trying to be a trouble. They're not trying to be a pain. They're just expressing their own views, own experiences. So what is required over there is, how do we help them understand what Agile is about? Why it is there? How does it help? And actually do it, show it to them, help them experience that. Then the world for them inside their minds changes. They act differently. And then they influence others. It percolates, it spreads. So that's the single most valuable way of bringing in a change. So basically, as it was said, be the change that you'd like to see around you, you have to start. Every individual needs to start. We cannot wait that, oh, we have heard about this human-centric business agility framework. It did sound very good. It is human-centric. Let's wait when our organization is going to bring it and roll it out. Doesn't work that way. Please don't do that. If you understand the good things, if you understand the basic valuables, apply it, show it to others, show some results. People will believe it. Results will speak for themselves. More people will come to that. More people will do it. That will trigger the movement. We'll see a better world.
Thank you, David. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any other thoughts? Any other questions?
Just one question.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. If we have time, okay. Like I was just discussing this agility and all with my few of my colleagues few days back, and there was a very straight and simple question they asked me. Right. The question was like, okay. I mean, we have bring in agility and we are following framework and all, but then isn't it getting us, making us more hectic day by day? Like we just go from sprint to sprint and we just go on developing coding and testing and delivering, and then it doesn't leave us with any time to sharpen our skills, or at least when we are in the project execution, actually that time we don't have enough time. So what would be your thought on this? Like what would you answer this kind of question?
It's a brilliant question. And thank you so much, Dipti, for bringing that up. And in my research, I have come across ample amount of examples of this situation. I would not say this situation is not a reality. I believe more of it is about how have we understand or have we understood this. Basically, it's a way it resides in our minds. If you take a very close practical look at it, in the context of agile values and principles, it never says anywhere, not even in an implicit way, that keep running full steam so that you become tired. You're not able to improve your quality. You're not able to improve your design. You're not able to improve your architecture. You're not able to write good code. You are not able to improve your skills. No way. It's anything but that. It's anything but that. Who is pushing you? So self-organization is a huge thing. And it is of paramount importance to understand what is meant by self-organization. If you are a Scrum team, if you actually are, I mean, many teams look like Scrum teams, but they are not, unfortunately, Scrum teams. If it is a Scrum team, the team decides what to do to improve the design, to improve the quality, to improve the competencies of each of its members. How much of capacity to allocate to that? How to do it? The team works on that. The team is the owner of that aspect. The expectation that somebody else external to the team would actually take these decisions on behalf of the team is slightly misplaced. It should not happen that way. Now, when it feels like, oh, it's a never-ending race we are in, we keep running, and we are so tired that we are not able to do anything else. We are not able to improve our skills. We are not able to improve our design, architecture, code quality, etc. What the hell is happening? Now that brings us to this topic. Go at a pace at which not only you as the team, but your customer, your stakeholders could actually run at that pace indefinitely. Indefinitely. Choose that pace, find that pace. If you're not able to find that pace, it's not really a Scrum team. It's not, unfortunately. All the mechanisms, all the guidance, everything valuable that have been provided in the Agile values and principles and many of the Agile frameworks, they basically give you enough to understand how to do things, why, to produce what. If this connection is not there, why to do what to produce what, then you can say that, okay, I'm doing Scrum, we are applying Agile and things like that, but you'll probably end up doing many more meetings. You are more tired. There are quality issues. The cost goes up actually instead of down. Agile done in a wrong way, misinterpreted, it does harm, like anything else. There is a way to do things. If we don't do it right, it doesn't give us the right results. It doesn't give us the intended outcomes. It cannot. So the responsibility is on us. We have to ask ourselves, we are the Agile practitioners, we are the Agile enthusiasts, we have to ask ourselves, have I understood the values? Why those values? Why each of those values came into picture? If those values didn't persist, didn't exist, what would happen? Find that answer. And nobody could give you the meaning to yourself. You have to find your own meaning. The input is there. You bring it in, generate the outcome with your own understanding and implement it, apply it, embrace it in your work. Your world will change within first. You'll transmit it. People will see that. They will get attracted. They'll try to learn. They will learn. They will become better. Their world in their minds will become better. They will spread it to others. That's how it should happen, I believe.